Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors, the place where we not only talk about what's going on in the gun world, but also how we're going to fix it together. And the content that I'm going to show you right now is a very pivotal shift you need to recognize. The gun controllers have reached a point in this tragedy where it can no longer be utilized for gun control in the specific subset of the event. So now it's going to zoom out and go broad, and they're going to politicize it, just like we told you was going to happen very quickly on this channel. I've got everything laid out. I'm going to show you what they're doing before they even do it, because we have some gun rights to pass along to the next generation, and you start by knowing your opponent. Everything I'm about to show you is linked in the description box below. I can't wait to hear what you guys think. If I'm on this, I land this plane, and of course, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on to help spread freedom to and fro across this great nation in the threat of all the pressure that we face. Let me get up here to the top. All right. So, people, when this tragedy first popped off, I did a short and I basically said a couple of things. One, this is a tragedy. I don't want it to happen to anybody across the planet. I wish these never existed. Two, it's going to be extreme emotional reaction very quickly, and then as the details come out, it's going to shift to political manipulation and campaigning. We are now in the point where the details of the case, like the father buying the kid a gun, the FBI being involved, the police being involved, an armed SRO who was there to prevent it, the lockdown technology which saves countless lives, that can't be leaned on anymore for gun control. You can't pick on Georgia because they funded the gun prevention. You know, they can't do all that stuff, or the gun violence prevention, as they would say. So now they've got to zoom out and go very broad and use it as a campaign political tactic. You don't believe me? Watch this. Check this out. It is happening this morning in real time, guys. This is why we pay attention to this stuff, so we can be in front of it and keep you in front of it as well. Georgia school shooting elevates gun violence as issue in Harris-Trump race. As you can see right down here, that came out September 6th, 7:56. So this morning. If anything, they're predictable. The shooting came as the top presidential candidates have been campaigning most prominently on issues including the economy, abortion rights, and immigration. Now, it's actually immigration, inflation in the economy, but they threw in abortion rights because that's one of the things that Kamala Harris has put a little flag in. But the other three, immigration, inflation, and economy, those are her worst areas. So what do? Quite simple. You stand on tragedy and you make it all about something else. Watch. And now I've got multiple videos coming for you too, right now. With 2 months left in the presidential race, former President Donald Trump would prefer to campaign on issues such as inflation and immigration. Vice President Kamala Harris has been centering her campaign on expanding economic opportunity while seeking to keep abortion rights. Top contrast with Trump. We know all about that. But here we go. Look at this. Again, we called this. We told you this was going to happen. But a school shooting in the battleground state of Georgia has thrust the issue of gun violence back into the spotlight, elevating, at least for now, a topic that had not been front and center in the matchup. Sounds like politicization. The immediate political reaction was familiar, signaling dim prospects for any near-term changes to gun laws, but gun control advocates said the proximity to the election could focus candidates and voters more urgently on the issue. Quote, I think in some ways it is a familiar reaction, but also in some ways there's a lot of differences, says Monisha Henley, Senior Vice President of Government Affairs at Everytown for Gun Safety. You notice how it's always the same villains? Which has endorsed Harris. Quote, we are in a presidential election, so that is an immediate difference. Voters are making the decision right now on who they think will best represent them up and down the ballot. Do you see what's happening? Emotional reaction. People are actually killed. The facts don't support your gun control, so you zoom out even broader to gun violence overall. Now, however, if the actual details worked on that sliding scale of gun control, then you focus on it forever. But if it doesn't work and it conflicts with your narrative, then it just goes broad politic. Watch. Guys, this is like textbook, all right? The political aftermath of the Georgia tragedy was also on display Thursday night when Trump's running mate, wait for it, Ohio Senator JD Vance said during a Phoenix campaign stop that he dislikes that school shootings have become a fact of life. I've got the clip. You can judge for yourself in a second. That prompted Democrats to accuse him of being callous towards the tragedies. Quote, Donald Trump and JD Vance will always choose the National Rifle Association and gun lobby over our children, said the Harris campaign. This is a choice in this election. So again, as predicted, immediate politicization on the campaign for Harris. Now, let's go to the clip that they're saying of JD Vance. Again, Kamala HQ. This is a pro Kamala Harris Twitter account or X account, all right? Listen to what JD Vance says, and then you tell me if they're lying. Listen to this.
Now, look, the Kamala Harris answer to this is to take law-abiding American citizens' guns away from them. That is what Kamala Harris wants to do. She says, look, I don't like this. I don't like to admit this. I don't like that this is a fact of life. But if you are a psycho and you want to make headlines, you realize that our schools are soft targets. And we have got to bolster security at our schools so that a person who walks through the front door...
Just gonna pause that for a second. Does that sound like JD Vance said, oh yeah, they're just a fact of life, we're not gonna do anything? Does it sound like, specifically since Republicans in the state of Georgia actually passed the funding and the mandated requirements to put those buttons and all the lockdown protocols in place to save lives? Does it sound like that? Or does it sound like politicization of tragedy by the gun controllers? Because never let a tragedy go to waste, and particularly when you can get your gun control. This is what's happening. Again, they couch that as JD Vance says it's just a fact of life. Nope. What he said was a fact of life is psychopaths exist and they see soft targets and they look to make damage. That's what he said. But again, don't let lying get in the way of your end goal, because the ends justify the means if you're on the gun controlling left. This is just a fact. They're going to call you whatever you want, or whatever they want. They're going to blame you for anything under the sun, and when it turns out the facts of the case don't matter, they zoom out and they just lie. All right, let's keep going. A little more from JD Vance, then I'm going to show you something that another gun controller said, which kind of jives with this. Check this out.
We've got to bolster security so that if a psycho wants to walk through the front door and kill a bunch of children, they're not able to. And again, as a parent, do I want my kids' school to have additional security? No, of course I don't. I don't want my kids to go to school in a place where they feel like you've got to have additional security, but that is increasingly the reality that we live in. Now, look.
That sounds kind of pragmatic. That sounds a little bit more based on reality versus, oh, they're a fact of life, do nothing, when he literally lays out hardening schools, which was the exact protocols put in place in Georgia. You know, whatever. Sure, that doesn't matter. Anyway, let's keep going. And again, guys, let me know in the comments if I land this plane, because a shift is happening. Let's go over to my favorite senator, gun controller extraordinaire, Chris Murphy. Here's what he said. As parents, we don't need to choose the reality for our children, this reality for our children, where they run for their lives as assassins hunt them in the school hallways. We can choose a different reality. Oh, really? What? I wonder what he's going to recommend here. Let's dive in. Let's see what Chris has to say. I really don't like this guy.
So listen, we just don't need to choose this. Our kids being hunted in their schools, living lives of terror. In 2 months, we're going to go to the polls, and we are going to make a choice. Donald Trump advertises that he is going to put the profits of the gun industry before the health of our kids. He says he's going to roll back the progress that we have made during the Biden-Harris administration to be a little bit more thoughtful about who gets their hands on weapons. Kamala Harris says that she will work to ban AR-15s, these assault weapons. But you don't need to protect your home. You don't need AR-15s to hunt. You only need them if you want to commit mass murder.
Well, let's just pause down on that little statement. The only reason that there are 25 million AR-15s in the population of the United States is because every single person who owns one clearly just wants to commit mass murder. What? Oh, by the way, also, vote for Kamala Harris, because we're not politicizing this tragedy about 3 days afterwards. We're also not going to talk about the fact that the FBI was involved, the police were involved. Not going to talk about the fact that there were threats against the school and then the parent actually bought the kid an AR-15. Not going to talk about any of those things, because that would be too easy to dispel. So we've just got to talk about the gun control and what Kamala Harris can do, because politicization and focus is on this right now. There's a reason that I find this man personally disgusting, but that's just my opinion. I'm sure he makes a great turkey dinner or some stupid stuff. Whatever they do in Connecticut, other than gun control. But here's the point. They're maligning you again, saying anyone who has an AR-15, you're a mass murderer in waiting. And then they're also saying, but don't worry about the tragedy, just vote for Kamala Harris. You see this trend, starting with the Washington Post, then it goes to malicious lies about JD Vance, and now it's about Kamala Harris again with what's his face, Chris Murphy. Let's go another one.
Kamala Harris says that she'll work to pass universal background checks. That's supported by 90% of Americans. The idea that you shouldn't be able to buy a gun unless you can prove you're not a criminal or you don't have a history of serious mental illness. You don't want to live in a world where our kids are gunned down in our schools, then go to the polls this November and support candidates, including Kamala Harris, who are going to take our kids' safety seriously and make sure you don't put in office people like Donald Trump, who are literally screaming from the rooftops to you that they are not going to give a shit about our kids and are going to care only about how much money the gun industry makes.
Wow. That guy's a peach. So, understand what's happening. It's about an emotional reaction to a horrible stimulus, which is a horrible tragedy. No doubt, we need to stop them immediately. The state of Georgia actually put in protocols to prevent the tragedies from escalating, and they worked. And then the FBI and police failed on the front end, the parent failed on the front end, and the protocols minimized as much damage as possible after the failure outside the school. Georgia state legislatures did that. So now all of a sudden, it's not about the details anymore because that doesn't help the push. Now you've got to go against the gun lobby. You've got to go against go for every single Democrat, including Kamala Harris, who wants to keep your kids safe, and Donald Trump wants to kill all your kids. And if you buy an AR-15, you really want to commit mass murder deep on the inside. It's not about fighting against tyranny or having your Second Amendment rights respected or about the ability to stand up against an overbearing government. No. That's not it. You want to be a mass murderer. So obvious and clear. This guy's a sitting freaking senator in the United States Senate. They're doing it. It's happening. And the one thing we can do is call it out and spread it out. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Did I land this plane? And I will see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.